welcome to our public health and palliative care conversation this morning. We're really sorry about the delayed start, but if you're in YouTube, that won't matter so much anyway. But thank you if anyone is hanging on, waiting for us to start out there. This is my name's Kerry Noonan. I'm a public health and palliative care researcher and practitioner from Australia, and I'm facilitating the conversation this morning from Sydney. And with us, of course, is Libby Sallnow, who is the scientific chair for the Public Health and Palliative Care Conference. Hello, Libby.
Hi there. I'm calling from London, where it's the evening.
Conversation this morning. Can you hear me okay, Libby?
Yep.
Fantastic. So we're gonna go for half an hour. Unfortunately, we've had some technical problems, hence the late start, and we will perhaps welcome Julian at some stage during the chat, but if not, it will be Libby and myself this morning. So we're going to do a couple of things. One is talk about the themes, the theme of the conference and the themes of the abstract submissions, and also talk about some of the things that you can do to submit an abstract that will be effective in terms of being accepted into the conference. Libby, I was wondering if we could start by telling it, if you could, because I know you've been around since the very first conference in Kerala. What's different about this conference? What sets this public health and palliative care conference apart from the other end of life conferences?
Well, this is the fourth one now. The first one was in Kerala, the second one was in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, the third was in Ireland, and now this one's going to be in Bristol. And they've really evolved since the first one in 2009. And the reason that this one I think is different is that we've got great speakers like we have had for the previous ones, but this one is much more about what learning and practice and what you're actually going to take away from it. And the other ones have been really good at building the kind of understanding, building the conceptual stuff and hearing about examples, but this one is really about what can you take away from the conference. And I think what makes it really different is rather than just having the 3 days of conference, there's 2 extra days at the beginning which are site visits. So for anyone wanting to come and really experience firsthand a public health approach project in the UK, there are 5 different centres that you can choose from, and you come for a day or 2 and the centres show you around, you get to see what the processes are, what kind of projects they're working on, and I think that's a really unique part of the conference because we really wanted people to take away something to their own workplace.
Yeah, great. But you've been to lots of palliative care conferences, Libby. Is there something different? Would you expect to have see the same kinds of papers and the same kind of work in this public health and palliative care conference that you might at a regular palliative care or end of life care conference?
So it's going to be really different to a normal palliative care conference. There's the kind of normal symptom management and stuff isn't going to be here. This is around the public health approach, and it's really explicit that is the remit of this. The conference speakers that we've got, the keynotes, are all experts in either in the field or in allied fields that are using public health in their fields but aren't explicitly end of life care, and so that is going to be the program. And then the abstract committee, which we'll come on to in a second, is really going to be around people who really understand this approach and are really putting it into practice in a whole range of different contexts, and we're going to select those ones that other people can really learn from. So it's going to be much more around real examples of the public health approach and practice, and also looking at some of the problems that we face, because often the approach is gaining really widespread acceptance, but it's not an easy approach to roll out, to upscale, to evaluate, and so there's going to be a lot of learning from centres that can really share the issues they've had and how they've overcome them.
Yeah, great. And so, I mean, in the UK, the compassionate communities kind of the use of that term has become a big part of this work, hasn't it? Can you say a little bit about that, for particularly for UK people who might be watching or listening at the moment, and then also tell us a little bit about the conference theme, the overall theme.
Yeah, so the public health approach is really broad, and it stems from the Ottawa Charter, which has the 5 pillars, which are a whole range of different things, from policy to reorientating health services to developing personal community action. And so compassionate communities has been interpreted more in the kind of community development, so community action interpretation, but there is much more, there's a much broader scope. So we'll be looking at compassionate communities, but also including policy and changes to the environment and other types of examples. But compassionate communities is really the main term that's is being used to describe this, particularly in the UK and overseas.
Okay, great. And the theme for the conference?
So it's resilience in practice. And that, again, is to really try and highlight the fact that this is around, this is not just around academic understanding, this is around people understanding in their own field and taking understanding back to their practice.
Great. And now there are 6 themes for abstracts. Let's get into the abstract stuff, because I know that there's lots of people interested in submitting abstracts out there. There are 6 themes that you're inviting people to participate in terms of submitting abstracts. Can you tell us a little bit about those? And just for anyone who is online live or even just watching on YouTube, you can if you could also go to the Public Health and Palliative Care website, which is www.phpc.info. Yeah. Can you hear me okay, Libby?
Yeah, I think Julian's trying to get through.
Yes. I'm just going to mute myself. If you could talk about the 6 themes, and I'll follow up with Julian, which will be great to have him here.
So the 6 themes, the first thing to say is that abstracts are open. So submission is online and available now, and will be open until the 30th of November. And there are 6 themes, but the key thing to say is that if you're not sure which theme it would come under, or if you would like some more advice on it, choose one that you think fits most appropriately, and we in the scientific committee will then will look at it and decide if it would fit more appropriately in another one. So they're not hard and fast categories. The first one is participatory approaches, and this is really important at looking at participation. It's not just an outcome, it's not just a process, it's both. And it's really leading to allow people to make decisions and take control over in their lives. It's similar to the next theme, which is engaging communities, but this work is more about how you make contact with communities, how you've made links with people who wouldn't traditionally access your services, people who may be thought as disadvantaged or hard to reach, how you found them and made links with them, and working as partners and sharing knowledge rather than doing things to people. The third is low resource settings, and this is around settings that may not have large structures around health systems and health services, but that are still creating interventions that can meet people's needs, and that they're not they're working to meet people's needs in the widest sense, and it may be creating palliative care services, but doing something above and beyond that. Learning from the other sectors is a key
Libby,
one.
Can I just ask you, just before you move on to the next 3, could you maybe give us an example of one of those, of what you might expect to get from an abstract, for example, about engaging communities?
So it might be a palliative care service that knows that there's a large homeless hostel nearby, for example, or another group that isn't accessing the service. So it would involve a description of how they might have made links with that group, who their contacts were, how they began learning about what needs that group had, what needs that they could meet through the hospice, what things they would need to do differently, and really describing the process of dialogue that started up, and the kind of discussions that they've had, and then what's resulted from that.
Great, thanks, Libby.
So learning from other sectors, I think this is a really important one. So we know that the public health approach is not something that's brand new in end-of-life care. We know that this is something that's being done and has been done for many years in many other sectors, some allied to health and social care, some not at all. And so we'd like to learn from them, because there's no point reinventing the wheel. We know that people have already got a great deal of wealth of experience. So, for example, in the conference program, we've got people who have been working within dementia-friendly communities, etc., because they're already using some of these approaches. And we'd like to hear from other areas, other sectors, who are doing this, but importantly have the ability to transfer your skills, for us to learn from your skills into the end-of-life care context.
Right. Sorry, Libby, can I just ask about that? It sounds like a really important part of the conference this time around, learning from other sectors. Can you say a bit more about that? And what other sectors might, would that be where maybe death doulas or people who are running death cafes, and is it that, or are you thinking, or is it completely different sectors?
No, I think people who are allied, particularly around death doulas and things like that, but they're kind of already within the public health palliative care broader remit. So we're interested in them, but also more broadly. It may be that you've got skills that have been used with other public health campaigns, smoking cessation, obesity, other issues, that there might be something that we can learn from some of the techniques that you've used that might be transferable over into end-of-life care. So we want to know about other people who've had experience in certain techniques, and it might be even around research tools like community-based participatory research, or other kind of tools that we can learn from you.
Great, thank you.
And so moving on, the next one is public health and policy. And this is one of the key components of the Ottawa Charter. It underpins a great deal of public health. And often within these conferences, we kind of get more practice examples of people doing quite small scale things with local services, which is fab. But under this heading, we really want to look more broadly at kind of policy, and that may be locally you've lobbied for a local business to change their compassionate leave policy, or it may be that a local council has added certain components to their health and well-being in the UK, or other strategies. And so it could be kind of really small level, local business, local council policies, up to much higher level policies. And so we want to know about how you influenced that, how you got your kind of points across, and what led to the change. And ideally, it'd be great to see if there had been any change as a result of that policy. That's really, really tricky to determine, and so we would be really interested to see if anyone's even had a go at trying to measure that. But it's taking a different view from, rather than kind of down at the grassroots, it's looking up at kind of what policy things support this work more broadly.
Mm-hmm. And so, can you say again, is there something you might imagine to get in an abstract about that topic?
Well, I know people are looking, a lot of businesses are looking at compassionate leave, and it may be that there's something locally that you've lobbied for to change in your local council to make leave easier to get, or something around support for carers to enable them to have more social contact, and something that's looking at targeting social isolation. So it might be quite a small scale, or it might be something much bigger. I mean, in 2008, Kerala released their first palliative care policy, which was heavily influenced by the public health model. And so, it could be really anything from one scale side right up to big national policy.
Okay, so but for health services or local governments that are implementing a compassionate community or a public health approach, this could be a place to present their learning so far.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those are just the kind of people we would really, really love to hear. And I know in the UK there's a lot of movement around this, and I'm sure internationally similarly there's other work around this. So that's exactly the kind of people we'd love to hear from.
Fantastic, thank you. So reframing dying, loss and grief is the final theme.
So I think often, you know, death, dying and loss, these are not medical issues. They are social phenomena. They're experienced by people in their communities, in their lives at home. They have medical components, of course. But really, if you look at the academic press and what's often spoken about at conferences, a really professionalized, if not medicalized, view is presented. And that really dominates the kind of understanding of it. And so this theme is to try and kind of redress that and try and say, actually, we want to hear about people capturing real experiences, not through the professionalized view, not through kind of the stages of grief, but what it means to real people, how it's experienced, and what people are doing themselves to support people within that, rather than this professionalized model. And an example from St Joseph's in East London, that we've started a new community-based bereavement service for people who don't feel that professional counselling is for them, but do feel that they would need someone to talk to. Often their own family aren't the people that they feel they can burden with some of their concerns. So this service matches up local community volunteers with people who've been bereaved, and they just go out, they have lunch, they do whatever is needed. So it's not a formal counselling service, but has great results because people feel that they can share their issues and talk about what it's meant for them in a non-professional setting.
Okay, so in fact, increasing people's social networks and social support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Great. Thank you, Libby. So that's the 6 themes. I wonder if you could tell us, there are some guidelines on the website about how to present your abstract to the committee. Could you talk to us a little bit about that and try and imagine that you've never done this before, Libby? I know that's hard because you do this a lot from both ends of the experience, but imagine you've never done it before, because we want to get new people submitting abstract. Yeah. Tell us about that process.
Sure. So abstracts, they're quite short. So it's not a big thing of amount. We've got Julian.
Yay!
Hello, Julian.
Keep going. It might take a few seconds for him to come online, so
yeah,
just keep going for a second about the abstracts.
So they don't need to be that long. It's 250 words, and on the website there are some guidelines about what you put in each part. So they need to have an aim, the method, and the results and conclusions, etc. So on the website there's a couple of sentences that says what you should put under each thing, and they shouldn't have been submitted elsewhere, because the whole idea is that, you know, we have new material. So please, if you've already submitted it to somewhere else, that's fab, but do try not to submit the same things again. And there's a form online, so if you go to public health, so phpci.info, on there's the website that takes you through to the abstract page, and you submit on the form. You choose your theme, but as I said before, if you feel that it's not the right theme, if we feel it would better fit another theme, we'll move you over into that. You need to decide whether you're going to submit a poster or an oral presentation or a workshop. And posters can be up to A0, which is a pretty big size poster. And on that, it's really for people who have got some interesting data but maybe don't feel they've got enough to fill the 15 minutes of an oral presentation. And on that, we really want to see what the take-home message is. I think people often put quite a lot of information around the methods and things, and there needs to be enough for people to know what you did, but the key thing is what did we learn from this, and what are you going to take home from that? Because people just walk through the posters and look at all of them, but don't have time to read them in detail often. So take home message. And the next one is an oral presentation, which is going to be 15 minutes with PowerPoint, if that's how people want to present, or if not, free to do it other ways. And this is where you've really got something to share, and some new lessons, some new learning to share with an audience. And there'll be a series of parallel sessions, so people will come and choose different themes. We're going to group all of them according to the theme, so people can come and hear all the presentations on the same theme. And then there's finally workshops, which are going to be 60 minutes, and they'll be for a smaller number of people. So when you submit, if you're going to do a workshop, you can put on how many people you would like to ideally be in it. And it could be a series of presentations from you and your team, some interactive work with the group, some question and answer sessions. So it's really, that's quite flexible for us to learn about your work. And if you,
how long is the workshop presentation? Libby?
Yeah, 60 minutes.
Okay.
So it's quite a long time to really do something quite interesting with. And if you, so on the top of the abstract form, you choose which one you think best to go into, but actually if we feel that it would be better in a different format, then when we make our decisions, we'll let you know. We'll write to you and say, look, we actually think this is more appropriate, what do you think? And you'll get the chance to say yes or no with that. And so once the closing date happens, which is on the 30th of November, please don't miss it. After that, we will be reading them. We've got 6 people looking over, from all around the world, looking at the abstracts. And we'll then let people know at the beginning of January. And we will put in can support visas as well. So we'll put in a formal letter so that you will support your visa application if you need one. And at the same time, there's the bursary. So when you submit your application for an abstract, if you'd like to be considered for a bursary, if you're from a low-income country, then that goes in at the same time. And if you're selected to have an abstract, then you can be eligible for a bursary. But they're done separately.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Libby. So what I'm getting from that is don't stress about choosing your theme. The committee will help with that if it needs a bit of a rejig. So don't stress about that. Posters really focus on your take-home message for your poster if you're putting that in, and I imagine in visual, if you've got a project that's particularly suited to visuals, and the workshops go for about 60 minutes, so it can be a team presentation or and quite interactive as well, and get it in by 30th of November.
Exactly.
Now, Julian, are you there?
I made it.
You did. Hello and welcome.
I'm about 20 years older now as a result of it, but there you go.
Now, you haven't got your video on, just so you know, but we're very glad that you are.
Hang on, that should have. It says turn camera off. I turned camera off. I just turned it on. Is that any good?
It should be. Now, would you like to? So, we have covered a lot of ground. I wonder if you might say a few words in terms of what you're hoping to see as the conference chair welcoming us to Bristol next year.
I think there's 2 things. I mean, one is we hope it's going to be an absolutely fantastic conference, and in particular, we're really keen that people walk away from the conference brimming with ideas and enthusiasm, having been exposed to examples of community development from all over the world, not just from end-of-life care, but from a whole variety of other sectors as well. We've all got plenty to learn. And then the other thing is that we've tried to set the conference up so that it's really to do with participation and on that level, we've had a fantastic response from the city of Bristol. So there will be a whole host of events that are happening at the same time as the conference, actually in the city, which people can go and visit, and there'll effectively be people coming in from the city into the conference to do stuff, and then likewise there'll be conference members going out into the city, which joining what will hopefully be a kind of festival for a week about public health approaches to palliative care. Something like that. Should be exciting and rejuvenating and hopefully a massive amount of fun.
Yeah, great. And so for people who haven't been to Bristol before, what should we expect in terms of coming to Bristol?
The conference is situated in the centre of Bristol, so it's easy. It's a place that's easy to get around, and you can walk to most places. Obviously there's things like shopping, but Bristol's quite a historic place, and you'll be delighted to hear that it was a centre of the slave trade, and has got kind of historic stuff around that, and you know, it's a good city. I mean, I think that in the context of the conference, there will be things going on in theatres, in art galleries, in cinemas,
right,
public places, in schools, a whole variety of different stuff that people can go out and see. So it's obviously a good place to eat, and there's loads of music, loads of stuff to do. Good place, Bristol.
Fantastic. Thanks, Julian. So I wonder if you might add also to just briefly telling you know, what would you like to invite people to think about when they're thinking about submitting an abstract? So Libby's really given us a fantastic overview of the themes, the theme of the overall conference, as well as the 6 different themes for sessions. What about from your perspective as the chair? What are you looking out for?
I mean, I think that the thing for me is an incredible opportunity for people to share examples of practice, of things that they've done, and I think that that's applicable from all over the world. And you know, one of the reasons why, for example, we looked at setting one of the themes from low resource settings is that when you have low resources, you're sometimes forced into innovative solutions, and these solutions can be equally applicable to a whole variety of different settings. So what would be really good would be to see a whole melting pot of ideas, of stuff that people are doing, which actually may be applicable in a whole variety of different areas. There's a real kind of fertile ground of ideas to share.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. Libby, do you have anything else to add about
I think
abstracts?
The main thing is not to be worried, and this isn't. We're not going to be critically kind of pulling these abstracts apart. This is an inclusive conference. We want people to be able to come share their projects at whatever stage they're at. So even if you're just near the beginning and you've got some great ideas and you're starting out, do share it, because there's learning that can happen, you know, depending on whatever stage you're at. So don't feel inhibited. Send something in, even if you know you're not that confident. We want to hear your ideas. So you know, even if it's just a poster, it's still there to get out and to be sharing your ideas. So please submit your ideas and let us be the judge of how good they are. Don't not send them in because you're worried.
Great advice. Thanks, Libby. I think we might start to wind up. I can't see any questions live online at the moment, which is and Julian, what about for you? Do you want to sum up for us, and then we might start to wind down and finish up?
Okay. I think that somehow, you know, if I'm thinking about a conference, I think about scientific presentations and and plenary speakers and some workshops, and they can be dry. Not always, obviously some are invigorating, but I think that what we're looking at is really examples of, rather than thinking of being strictly scientific, we're looking at examples of practice. We want to know what's going on. We want to know what people are doing. We want to share it, and we want to give the opportunity for people to discuss it. Networking is really important. Hearing ideas is really important. Going away with enthusiasm and thinking about the future for all the things you can do is absolutely a central theme for us. And you know, in the environment of Bristol, which is a great city, and all the stuff that's going on, we want people to have a really great time, as well as, you know, walk away with a huge amount.
Great, thanks, Julian. And what about, can people get in touch? What's the best way to get in touch if there's a question or something they need in terms of the committee?
I've got so julian.abel@nhs.net. You can find links on the conference website, and there's the Facebook page and Twitter and all of that. We try to make it as easy as possible for people to contact us, and we're happy to answer questions.
Yeah, and I'd second that. If you're not sure about sending in an abstract, send me an email. You know, I'd be really happy to talk about it. So contact me about any of the issues around abstracts. I'd be really happy.
And if for some reason you can't find an email address and you are on Facebook or Twitter, feel free to ask us a question in social media and we can respond. One of us will respond within a day or so.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Julian, for hanging in there, and Libby for all of the information that you've shared today. We're going to end the broadcast now, and thanks to everyone who joined in, and thanks to everyone who subsequently watches on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Okay.